Hello, my name is Channon Oyeniran, and I am a historian, geographer, speaker, teacher, author, PhD student, the co-founder of Oh Yes Education, as well as the vice president of the Ontario Black History Society. I am so pleased to speak to you today about a source that will challenge Canadian history. The source that I want to share today is this children's chapter book written by yours truly called The Time Travel Adventures of Ara, Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. It is a book for ages 7+, but really anyone can read it. I have friends and family who are adults who have read it and who have really enjoyed it. So this book has 11 chapters, as well as some illustrations, because we know illustrations always, makes things more exciting. And this is the first book in a 5-part series, and it was released on May the 6th of this year. And this book introduces the main character, whose name is Ara, and Ara is actually my 6-year-old son, and this book follows him as he goes back in time, travels back in time, and meets different Black historical figures and learns about Black Canadian history. He also learns about his heritage and his family roots. He has Jamaican heritage as well as Nigerian heritage as well. So also in book 1, Ara goes back to 1860 St. Catharines, Ontario, where he gets to meet the famous Underground Railroad conductor, Harriet Tubman. So Ara goes back in time, goes to St. Catharines, goes and meets Harriet Tubman, goes on an adventure with her, and just learns more about her life, how she made it to Canada, and goes on an adventure with her to help rescue enslaved people trying to make it to regain their freedom in Canada. Now, this book and subsequent books in this series will challenge traditional national narratives if used in the classroom for a few reasons. Now, the first reason being that unfortunately the history of Black people in Canada is not mandated in the education curriculum across Ontario and I believe most parts in Canada. So unfortunately, our children are largely not being taught about important Black people, their stories, and their experiences in Canada. And this history of Black people dates all the way back to the 1600s. Secondly, it is important to create stories and content that represent Black children so that they can see themselves represented and that they and other children can read about the rich and diverse history of Black people in Canada. Thirdly, there is also an absence and a gap in learning about all histories other than European history in the Canadian education system. We know that so many people have come to Canada to help build this country and society, and unfortunately, we don't always get to learn about those histories. So it's very important that these histories be fully recognized, that they be learned by our children, and that they be appreciated. Traditionally, in many schools across Canada, only the Underground Railroad story is told and celebrated, and it's a wonderful story based on Canada's role in the Underground Railroad. But rarely do we learn about Black Canadians and their stories and their history and, beyond the Underground Railroad. There's so much more history beyond the Underground Railroad for Black people in Canada. And this book and other books in the series will really tell that story. This book will challenge this single story and tell readers about some of the diverse people, the stories, the experiences of Black people, not only in Canada, but in different parts of the world, as they all connect and to relate to Ara, being a Canadian and having Jamaican and Nigerian heritage. And of course, these stories will be told through the eyes of Ara. And, I really believe that if children have the opportunity to learn about different cultures and histories when they are young, then they will have more understanding, empathy, and an appreciation for all people. So once again, this is the source, a secondary source, The Time Travel Adventures of Ara, Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad, released this year. I'm so excited for it to be out and for the story to be told and for kids just to learn about Black history in a fun and exciting way. Thank you so much for watching. You can find the book on my website, www.oyeseducation.org/shop. Also on Amazon worldwide. It's at the Ajax and Pickering libraries if you live in the region of Durham. It's also in a few other bookshops, in Amherstburg Museum, in Windsor, Ontario, in Buxton Museum, in the Chatham, Dresden, Buxton area in Ontario. And you can really just reach out to me and connect if you're interested. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and my handle is at Channon Oyeniran, ChannonOyeniran, at Channon Oyeniran on all handles. Once again, that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Do connect with me, stay in touch, and I hope that you use this source in your classrooms to challenge the national Canadian narrative and to really teach children about Black history in Canada. Thanks for watching.